Welcome to Ballers and Briefs. We are back for season
We're
2.
back. Let's get it. Excited to
Uh,
be back.
yes, we are. We are back in the booth and ready to ride the wave into a new NFL season. Brad and I here will be here with you for the next little bit to chat a few things up, and hopefully we might get a pop in from our old boy Phil to run down some DFS training camp knowledge
Got to
for
get
us.
that daily fantasy knowledge in. Got to give that to the people. The people need that as well. You got to double up. You got to go fantasy. All the avenues available to you.
Definitely, definitely. So let's just get straight into what we came here to talk about. So let's just first drop into the training camp kickoff deck here.
Whew, we're back.
Yes, yes. So football is back. Football is here. Um
You have
uh
training camp kind of going on there in
yes,
Houston,
yes, yes.
Texas,
It
right?
is it
Despite, I
is
guess, the people not having any power, but you got some football,
yeah,
so it's
yeah,
all
there's
good.
football. The city is trying to find something to hold on to. I mean, you got the big wigs of Houston, like Mattress Mac. Everybody knows who Mattress Mac is. Mattress
Of
Mac out
course.
here pounding for the electricity and to get it back, and then rooting for the Texans on the side. So the new, as you can see in this lovely graphic here, the new savior of the city, CJ Stroud it's the Stroud House. So like as Pat McAfee says, it's the Stroud House here now. So uh, JJ, nah.
I respect that.
Uh, and then we're getting ready to roll into the Hall of Fame game with the first Texan to be inducted in the Hall of Fame, Andre Johnson. I love to see it. So it's been a long
I
time
think
coming.
of all the type of players, you could think of how great a player could be the first player that goes into the honor. Then a player like Andre Johnson, man, that's just a Hall of Fame player across the board, no question. So it's just I got to see him play as a Jaguars fan, and each week you knew, unfortunately, as a Jaguars fan, that your cornerback was probably gonna not win a lot of those battles that game. He was a great receiver, man. Hurricane, Miami Hurricane guy as well. So really happy for him, even though he's a Texan.
Yeah. Hey, it's just like Tony Baselli going in for you guys. I mean, there's still a few
Yeah,
guys I think that you guys need to have in, like Freddie T
yeah.
and some others like maybe Jimmy Smith, maybe. But yes. So
The more the teams stay relevant, as you see, the more the teams, keep making it to the playoffs. It always seems to kind of kickstart those older players to get their opportunities to kind of get into, the highest honors that are available to them. Sometimes it takes that wave of winning to bring in that old, and they go back and look at the film like they're going to with Freddie T, and
yeah,
see that he was a really good player and deserving.
definitely, definitely. So some now we can shift in a little bit of Jaguars news here.
Yeah. How
That
nice are those unis?
the I mean that I how many times I played in Madden, if I was playing against or with the Jaguars for some awful reason, that old school with the leaping Jaguar on the side
Every
of the
time.
sleeve, man, those are clutch, dude. Like I think that they're nice. They did a good job on them. I mean, I think that it it's good to see something that looks appealing to the eye again, so it looks nice. And I think how many people, countless people I knew that had a Jaguars uniform or jersey, it was that one Fred Taylor uniform, like that one, or maybe a Mark Brunell, so it's good to see like those 95 jerseys that took them to what, the AFC championship.
Yep, you got it. There were actually people in Jacksonville that waited outside of the Jaguar store since actually yesterday to actually purchase merchandise. That's how big it was to get into the Jaguar store and get a copy of those, or get your hands on some of that merchandise there with the old school logo there.
Yeah.
So really happy for the city overall, just to get a chance to kind of rep that Jaguars pride, and kind of brings you back to that period of time where the Jaguars were really, really on fire at that point, and firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and kind of to ride the the wave of the Jaguars momentum here. The guy we've talked about, Phil and I have known, he's not only spending 70 months in prison, now the Jaguars have, for stealing that $22 million, the Jags are suing him for $66.6 million in damages. He pled guilty to that credit card fraud, or virtual credit card program where he was just embezzling the money.
Yep.
And that is insane. Like it's literally, I can't believe they're coming back for 3 times what it was worth. I mean, I guess inflation's a hell of a drug, you know what I'm saying? So it's
you got to recoup the cost and the cost that it takes to recoup the cost. So unfortunately, that's going to be a lot more, definitely, with inflation. So unfortunately, you get good news and then you also get a little tweak of bad news. But that has sort of been in a resolution now, and so we can definitely move forward. Just unfortunately though, you gotta kind of watch who's handling the money. At least from all of my experience in the financial industry, you gotta have someone checking someone else. Unfortunately, because these types of things happen. You can't have the same person dealing the money as the person reconciling it. So
yeah, I
when
mean,
those two are partnered together, you can unfortunately have bad things like this happen. So I think you shocked that it happens on an organization, $1 million, $1 billion organization. But it just goes to show you that it can happen to any organization.
yeah, the Jags went after FanDuel for like 20 million of this 22 million. So
You got to
and
try to
they
go to
haven't.
knock on every door.
So I mean and he's on the hook for quite a bit of it. I mean, he's in there for 6.5 years. So
That's weird. The
6
number is 6 though. That's
oh my God,
I
that's
think that
yeah,
was a kind of a setting a number there. I know how people were a little bit,
yeah.
funky with the numbers they choose a lot of times when they're suing, and I just think that's kind of funny.
I mean, it's so like this is obviously a civil case, so the burden of proof is a whole lot lower than it is for a criminal case. So
You got it.
the likelihood of this coming to some version of fruition is very likely. So that yeah, dude, I would have disappeared is all I got to say. You would have never known I existed ever again. I had to change my
If
name.
it had
I
gotten
had to
to that number,
found somebody that could change
man.
my fingerprints. There's something out there. So yeah. So now we shift back into some actual football things that are kind of
Football
pressing
news.
that will affect fantasy come this season. So these were things that actually would be relevant to us. Is first one is Brandon Ayuk. I mean, he just come out and blatantly requested to get traded again. I mean, literally, it's been kind of like he's been shrugging his shoulders the whole time about, hey, I want to get traded. And then it was like, oh, they were trying to seek to trade him or Debo. And then they go out and draft Pearsall in the draft.
Yeah,
So
that
like, I mean,
definitely changes the
did they
equation. I mean,
put the writing on the wall or like what?
I,
Like,
I guess the first question is, I'll ask it to you. Would you prefer Debo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk if you had to choose one or the other? Because I guess that's also the question that the GMs are probably asking right now as well.
um, in this case, I think it's a conversation me and you kind of had maybe a couple days ago or something like that. But the numbers. I mean, Brandon Ayuk was 1,000-yard receiver this season, right?
Yeah,
He didn't have a
yeah,
ton of touchdowns because all the touchdowns went to. He had the same amount of touchdowns as Debo, but Debo had like 5 rushing touchdowns and 6 receiving. I think Ayuk had 6 or 7 touchdowns total. Debo had 11. But at the same time, the bulk of the touchdowns that Ayuk did the work for went to the likes of CMC and Kittle, right?
yeah.
And so, or so I think Ayuk, he was a first rounder, right? He was a first round pick out of Arizona
Believe
State, I
so.
believe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was.
So, I mean, I think he is a number 1, maybe on maybe 20 teams in the NFL right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Debo is Debo is Debo. I guess he's kind of a one of one. You know what I'm saying? He's more of that gimmick type guy that you can line him up in the backfield. You can line him up in the slot. You can line him up outside. You can hand him the ball, whatever you need to do. So I almost kind of feel like it's comparing apples to oranges instead of apples to apples. But if I'm looking for a number one wide receiver, I am definitely trying to make a trade. I mean, it's just me because I think if San Francisco's
Are you willing to pay him number one money?
I don't know if I'm not willing. I don't think I'm willing to pay him Justin Jefferson money.
Okay.
But I think
Tyreek Hill money is that's
possibly
underneath them. Possibly, then I'm
I
taking
think
that.
I think he's probably I don't think he's top 5 or so in the league because that's something that we can talk to when we get to the fantasy portion.
Yep.
Because that's kind of something that brings up a lot of topics. But I don't think he's top 5, so I don't think he deserves top 5 money. I think he deserves possibly low end wide receiver 1 money. I mean, something similar to what Nico Collins kind of got here in Houston. I don't think it needs to be
More than that.
ginormous amounts, So, yeah. So I think he's a number one. I mean, especially to teams that he's linked to, like Pittsburgh, or I mean, I've even heard New England throw that name out there, and obviously he wants to go play with his boy, Jaden Daniels from in Washington, right? Because they played together for
State, right?
played 1 year, at Arizona State together before Daniels transferred and IU got out of there. But yeah, so that I think that he's facing like $40,000 worth of fines daily, like if he doesn't show up to the building. So
I mean, I think we'll definitely get a little bit more into this from a fantasy perspective, but I actually think, even just from a football perspective, I think he would actually benefit from playing one more year, kind of getting to have a really long, potentially postseason play, which will actually open him up more for teams probably wanting to pay him that number one money down the road. I think it's one of those instances where you have to bet on yourself that one more year to get the type of figures that you're hoping to achieve. And I think one more year of 1,000 yards, maybe tack that to from 7 to maybe 11 touchdowns, which is definitely possible for this offense this year. And with Debo Samuel, sometimes having injuries throughout the year, that could potentially open him up for additional targets in a system in which, if he goes and gets traded, it's a potential that he begins to get doubled and will actually cause a little bit more issues with trying to get targets and receptions. Whereas I feel like in this offensive scheme, that opens him up a little bit more for better yards down the field and better yards for reception.
I mean, the rumor has it somewhere around 26. So Jefferson's 35, AJ's 32, Amon-Ra is 30, Reek is 30, Jalen Waddle's 22 and a quarter, Devontae Adams is 28, Cooper Kupp is 26.7, and then Devontae Smith, there's 25 even. So these are like average yearly values. So I think that number, I don't see a problem with that 26, to be totally honest with you, compared to Cooper Kupp, Devontae Smith, and then it's like I said, Nico Collins is at 24 and a quarter. So yeah. I think that he fits right there. And then Debo is 23.8, 23,850. So there you go. Like I mean, Michael Pittman was a franchise tag this year and then signed his deal for 23. So
yeah, I definitely think that within a different team, it would make sense. It's just unfortunately you can't fit that much of your cap space into just your receiver room and try to make a championship team. It becomes very difficult to fill the rest of a team to be able to really do that. So I think that's where it's kind of a sticky situation for the 49ers. But we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. So we can move on to the next one. Jordan Addison, I guess if you haven't been living under a rock, that he just got arrested for suspicion of DUI. He was drunk or woke up in his car. I've heard multiple different types of cars, Rolls Royce, Lamborghini, all these. It's a high end car, right? So
something exotic,
something along those lines. And it was in last season he got in trouble for some like driving 140 miles an hour or something like that, reckless driving and stuff. So he's been making some pretty poor decisions recently, and to be somebody that could be in, let's just say in 2 or 3 years in this Brendan Ayuk type conversation after what we saw him do last year, especially when Justin Jefferson was out, and he came in and he was one of the leading touchdown receivers last season, so
yeah.
Dumb decisions for someone that has quite a bit of potential, and I mean I've heard
Unfortunately, it
rumors.
happens. You're young. He's coming to a lot of money, and sometimes, unfortunately, you make that decision. You always think that with all that money, they would just have a driver or a special Uber connection. And I believe the NFL has said that they do have like a their own personal sort of limo service to help kind of clear this issue. So unfortunately though, when you're on top of the world, you don't think those things might happen to you. So I think it's a teaching tool for him. I guess from a fantasy perspective, it could be potential that he could pee out some games. We'll see.
Yeah, I
What
mean
up, Phil?
we can't hear you, buddy. So but yeah, no, I think it's rough, and looking at where it could be end up hurting or helping fantasy levels going forward.
Hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now, buddy. Yeah, we can hear you.
Right, my fault. I thought it started at 8.
Yeah. It's all right. It's okay. We told the people when we kicked off that we can sit here with bated breath and our fingers crossed that our DFS guru was going to show up. So
the man is in the building.
Yeah, so you missed our conversation here about Amit. He's getting sued for 66.6 million by the Jags.
Yeah, somebody texted me about it, and they were wondering how they're going to get their money from somebody that's broke. So I'm lean. He ain't never going to be able to be profitable in his life ever.
Yeah. So it was crazy that we were saying that was nuts. That 66.6. We're trying to make a point right now, right? Like this is literally, and I mean, as you know, the burden of proof for that civil suit is a whole hell of a lot lower than it is for a criminal suit. So the Jags might get some blood out of this turnip on this one. So
correct.
Yeah. So
poof.
Yeah. But you missed our conversation about the Jaguars uniforms. I know you're going to crap on them, but because it's Trevor Lawrence in the picture, but you got to give some love to the old school uniforms.
Trevor Lawrence for me, man. I can't stand by it.
So we can jump right into this is for season long, obviously, but this kind of information also kind of plays into some of the decisions that we will talk about and make decisions for during DFS when it comes to chalk versus that get different type play. So for the ones of them that don't know, ADP is average draft projection. And what this is according to all of the fantasy apps out there, these guys are going in this specific place in the draft order. So obviously everyone says, okay, after last year, I got number 1 pick, 1 of 1. I'm taking Christian McCaffrey. And then you have CeeDee Lamb at number 2, Tyreek Hill at 3, Jamar Chase at 4, Justin Jefferson at 5, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 6, Bijan Robinson at 7, AJ Brown at 8, Brees Hall at 9, and Puka Nacua at 10. Okay, so the point I wanted to make about this, and I wanted to bring this up to both of you guys. Obviously, Phil, you don't play season-long fantasy, but if you did, I want devil's advocate in this case. If you, and Brad, tell me your thoughts too. So I think number one is probably not really up for debate. Like, obviously, that number one spot, everybody wants CMC because he can catch the ball, run the ball, and he gets in the end zone. If he blows his knee out, you're just screwed. But other than that, in a PPR setting, I think your biggest conversation pieces start either at 2 or at least 3. So if you guys look at this list here, would you make changes to that?
I actually have a different list than this ADP list provided here, just because I'm taking into account a little bit more of the quarterback play that I believe would be a little bit more successful long term. So actually, if I were to give my top 5, I actually have C-Mac at 1. Number 2, I have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Number 3, Chase. Number 4, Jetta. And number 5, I would have at Tyreek. And just because I just feel a little bit stronger about Jared Goff in the offense, and what they're running, kind of bringing back the same exact scheme that's been money for them the last couple of years. I trust Goff a little bit more, and also trust Burrow a little bit more than I do actually Tua this year and Dak Prescott. So my 5 is a little bit different, but I understand. There's a lot of Cowboy fans out there too. And so I know that love kind of comes down and it helps to push up some of these drafts for sort of CeeDee Lamb, but I just don't know if he's going to repeat that same production this year. Not that he won't have a bad year. I just don't know if it's going to be the same thing.
And these numbers are specifically attributed to, I believe, ESPN. So as people have started drafting this year, these numbers kind of fluctuate daily. But I've seen the first 3. I would say the 4, 5, and 6 fluctuate kind of fluidly. Now I'm of the same thought that I don't know about the CeeDee Lamb. So like I said, Phil, I know you don't play season long anymore, but like, what is your take on this list of these top 10 guys right here, or at least the top 5?
I would say that DFS has maybe ruined me for season long because now I'm just stuck thinking different. I actually would disagree probably with all of this. To be honest, CMC number 1 or 2, yeah, Tyreek number 1 or 2 in my book. But I feel like Stephon Diggs or Nico Collins definitely should be in the top 5, considering the numbers that that wide receiver core put up last year, and now Stephon Diggs is there is crazy. So it's like ingrained in me to think different. If I'm going to think different, I'm trying to win my league. I feel like you should also be thinking different in season long. And the fact that CD is up there is number 2 is crazy to me, but I don't see him like outside of number 5. Same with the rest of them. I mean, AJ Brown was clear number 1 last year for the Eagles and a high output offense. Seeing him at 8 is just, I don't know, gross, especially below Chase. I know Brad liked Chase and had him in his top 5, but I think the output last year wasn't what we were used to. So I just like thinking different now. So if you're missing Diggs in this top 5, I think you need to recheck your lineup.
And the reason I went with Chase a little bit higher was just because of the belief that Burrow would be back healthy and he would be playing more games than he did last year. And so that combination is deadly. Kind of going back to sort of the year before and the numbers he was able to put up when Burrow was a little bit more healthier. And so I guess that's what I was taking into consideration a little bit more.
I understand that.
I don't hate it.
Yep.
I don't hate it. I like Chase. I just think,
I got you.
Is Burrow going to be back, right? He came back last year and he's still kind of favoring the ankle.
I mean, his wrist is what bothered him, what took him out this last
But
season.
wasn't he
So
favoring like an ankle at the same time that didn't put him out?
he started. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's happening with my man's health, and is like game one gonna shut him out like it did Aaron Rodgers? I don't know. That's another thing, right? Y'all got Brees Hall up here, you know, who did great, but that was because Rodgers was out, right? So
Yep. I
considering
was
coming
thinking
back,
the same thing on that.
you know,
as well.
running back might not, you know, be the thing there, right? We saw how that affected Aaron Jones when he was on Green Bay. It was like one game, 3 touchdowns to Jones, and other games, nothing, no output. So hit or miss. I definitely wouldn't be drafting him top 10.
I think that my biggest one, and I like the pulling the trigger at Amon-Ra St. Brown at number 2 because I'm a big Sun God fan. I really do like that. The biggest eyesore to me on this top 10, outside of the 3 wide receivers that fluctuate amongst Tyreek, Chase, and Jetta, is Puka Nacua at 10. Okay, Puka Nacua at 10. It scares me because Cooper Kupp is coming back. He's healthy, and their production kind of like runs hand in hand. And I feel like he'll be a sophomore, so he could either surge or he could slump. And that scares me because he had a great year. No one had tape on him last season. Everybody's going to be doubling him this year. And that takes all the pressure off of Cooper Kupp, who everybody would double Cooper Kupp for the last umpteen years. And then also they have Kyron Williams coming back off for 1,000-yard season. So that Puka Nacua at 10 is my biggest pet peeve on this whole top 10 list. But something that surprises me the most on here, another one that I like, that you guys are gonna be like, why? I like Bijan there at 7. And I'm gonna tell you why. This new offense, Kirk Cousins loves to dump the ball off to his wide receivers, to his running backs. And this offense is the same offense. It's a Sean McVay offense, and they're going to put him in the best opportunity to score and get him the ball however they can. I believe that he's going to have the ball so much this season that he's got to be, I think, at least the second running back that's got to come off the board. And he's even worth maybe in the top 5 there because he's going to have the ball in his hands so much.
I agree with that. But that also,
I'm gonna play devil's advocate and just say, I actually think that it's a little high on Bijan just because a lot of that to me is still based on hope. And when you're going 1 through 6, you need someone that's going to be guaranteed, that's going to get you at least 20 plus points in these leagues in order to be successful, especially in a 10 or 12 man league. And it's just, I do agree that all of the potential is there. It's just, I just couldn't pull the trigger at 6 if I had the option when I still have a AJ Brown available, even though or a Puka Nacua available based off of this list. I just think that there's just other options that are a little bit more dependable, a little bit more, will get you a little bit more success each week.
Okay, so all right, so I have y'all's feelings for the top 10. So that's a first round for a 10-man league, or almost first round in a 12-man. So let's pivot on to the next set. Now this is a full-on set of a first 2 round of a 12-man draft here. So Phil, pointing to your Brees Hall comment. Okay, look who's coming in here at number 11, Garrett Wilson. Okay, there is your Brees Hall comment. Your Brees Hall, like, okay, this was without Aaron Rodgers. Here's with Aaron Rodgers. I think maybe Aaron Rodgers has the effect here. The Aaron Rodgers effect is making Garrett Wilson kind of climb up the board, and we're hoping that that's what's going to take him over. And then you have, kind of to your point, Brad, with the hoping and praying on Bijan Robinson. Look, they're sitting at number 13, Drake London.
I would even say, look, they're sitting there at 12 in Jahmyr Gibbs, because again, I guess maybe I'm a little bit high on the Lions, but I believe that if I'm not mistaken, Jahmyr Gibbs finished top 10 fantasy points for running back. And also he was able to have a lot of missed tackles. I think a lot of the games that he played in, he also had targets and receptions, which I love in a running back when you can also get those catches out of the backfield. I feel more comfortable drafting Jahmyr Gibbs than I do drafting Bijan Robinson.
Damn.
Just because I feel that comfortable about the offensive line play that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get. Now, I do know he has a handcuff with, I believe, Montgomery.
They were 11 and 12 last season in fantasy points.
That type of a season for Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm just high on him. There's just multiple games where he was able to have a lot of big time production, even despite Montgomery. So
they
just
were
a point.
11 and 12.
There's a lot going on this page that I find interesting. I like a lot better than a lot. Like here's my Nico Collins right here. I rate him much higher than 16.
I mean,
you also got Deebo Samuel at the very bottom, essentially, with talks of Brandon Ayuk being traded or not signed, which is crazy to me. Drake London with Kirk Cousins, I feel like is going to look like Justin Jefferson, which takes me back to the Justin Jefferson being at like number 5 or 6 was crazy to me. So that was because Kirk Cousins is an arm guy and he sits and he throws fucking monsters down the field. He's a pocket passer essentially. So I think somebody like Drake London will shine, Nico Collins will shine, Deebo Samuel. I like the Garrett Wilson absolutely where he's at, but like some of these could be top 10 for sure.
Brad, look at 14, Marvin Harrison Jr. There's one of your Keel Athletics fantasy relevant rookies there.
And I actually like that position. I mean, if you think about it, if you're in a 10 or maybe even a 12-man league, that would theoretically be about your second person that you're choosing. And if you are able to get if you do decide to kind of reach a little bit on Bijan, its potential maybe might not be there, but there's a potential that Marvin Harrison might be there available for you to pick up on the backside, who will get you those targets that you're going to want to have out of your number one receiver. I think they're really going to feed him the ball this year, and why not, given the size and his ability to separate from cornerback. So I'm really excited about Marvin Harrison Jr. this year. But another person I think we haven't even kind of touched on enough is also Chris Olave.
Yes, I was about to say that.
To the Saints. He really is poised. I think they said he took up 29% of the target share last year. And just coming into this year, I just believe he's going to even add on top of that, plus the chemistry, just getting a chance to be in the same offense with the same quarterback. I just expect to see some things happening for him and just the game flow, getting the targets that he needs to be successful in a fantasy base.
1,123 yards last season, Chris Olave. I mean, like you, as a Saints fan, you would think that Phil would be like bouncing out of his chair right now, thinking that, yeah, that's a 1,000-yard receiver. We haven't seen one of those since Michael Thomas and Drew Brees. So
I just don't like cars. So
I mean, it
was hard to play Olave last season in DFS, and season long is probably a great play. I don't know. I'll just not big on my team with Derek Carr.
And then somebody it's a Saints hater down here at 23, old reliable Mike Evans. Mike Evans, 1,000-yard, 10, 12 consecutive 1,000 yards receiver. I mean, he's one of these guys you're getting at. If you picked at 2 and you picked CD at 2, you're getting, or whoever you picked at 2, you're getting Mike Evans at the turn here. So that's pretty nice.
Saints, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, right. But my big eyesore on this page is 24, Devin Achane. I just am.
Savage.
I'm not sold. I'm not sold on him with as long as Raheem Mostert is there. I am not sold on him, and he did not play.
They both ate, man. I think you can get sold on them. They both ate all games. They both were putting up points. Maybe not DFS 1 milli, winning points because they're both eating, but these are long points. They both ate every game.
I mean, it when he was healthy, yes, but sometimes he was just so up and down. And like I said, when Mostert's on the field, it as long as he's there, I don't think I'm picking him as a RB7 in the second round. If he slid to me in the third, okay. Something that's crazy here is these are draft projections, and there's not a tight end in sight. So no Travis Kelce, no Sam Laporta. I do know down in the third round, Phil's boy Sam Laporta is the rock star of the tight end world right now. So he's a lot of people are reaching for him, but and then
I call that guy every week.
Yes. Oh, yeah, you did, and that's what's crazy. And then you have some other guys that are household names, like Cooper Kupp at 25, Devontae Smith at 26, a rookie Malik Neighbors, a second rookie Malik Neighbors, 27, and then Derrick Henry rounding out the third round, kind of in the 30s, mid 30s, and then that's ADP. So I think that there's some guys here that it feels like people are reaching for. You're reaching a little bit, but I don't know if Devontae Adams is Devontae Adams, but is he Devontae Adams? Is he that Devontae Adams with the Raiders? I mean, he gets catches and targets, but I don't know. So
one of the names I thought was interesting that didn't even crack this list is Kyron Williams, the running back for Los Angeles, the Rams.
29.
They have him listed here at 29, but even having him on my fantasy team last year, I can recall, but he had 5 games of 20 plus fantasy points last year. I'm interested that he didn't even crack that list. I know that there's a potential that Blake Corum could eat into his production, but I just think that running back position when Sean McVay's offenses run really well, it's because of the fact that the run game is at top tier shape. And so it's just very interesting that he dropped that low, just given the amount of production he had. And from a fantasy perspective, just even going straight all the way and through to the sort of the fantasy league playoffs, he was very productive. So as if you're kind of looking for a sleeper that's outside of this list, that's one of the first person that kind of come to mind. 5 games also of 100+ yards rushing.
I have only one rebuttal to that is they have not had back-to-back 1,000-yard rushers since Todd Gurley did it in 17 and 18. And since Gurley left, they have not had the same starter start the season and end the season. It has changed fluid. The guy that started game 1 did not start the last game of the season since Gurley has left. So that's my play for this, is because that hasn't been a thing, and we see Sean McVay cast running backs, out into the forest with the wolves. If you don't please him after 1 or 2 games, you're set to the side. So Blake Corum is there and was a higher prospect than Kyron Williams was. So that's my Kyron Williams take. So with that being said, let's jump into the DFS training camp with our specialist here, DFS Phil. So Phil, take us through some of these terms here that people will hear us talking about this season and what they mean to you. So,
all right, I got you. Number 1, DFS stands for Daily Fantasy Sports. For me, it stands for Daily Fantasy Football. That's my pride and joy. It's kind of where I shine at. And essentially what that is you're creating a fantasy lineup each day or each game day. So, for example, Sundays, you could pick a lineup that's only for the 1 o'clock game. and then it ends. Or you can pick a lineup that's from the 1 o'clock games and the 4 o'clock games and the 8 p.m. game, and it ends. Or you could pick a lineup from Thursday to Monday night, and it ends then. So you're just drafting a lineup that terminates week to week, day to day, hour to hour in those lines, instead of season long, having the same players all season long, where injuries could kill you, things like that. And when you're doing that, that takes us to number 2, which is GPP, and number 3, cash. Tie those in together. So these are the 2 types of tournaments that are offered on daily fantasy sports, such as DraftKings, Yahoo, FanDuel, Underdog Fantasy, those types of apps. GPP is your guaranteed prize pool. That is the ones that look beautiful on the face, that most people just jump right into. That would be like your $3 entry, and the guaranteed prize pool is $300,000. Or your $1 entry and the prize pool is $100,000. Those GPP tournaments are usually filled with hundreds of thousands of people, 20,000, 30,000, 100,000, 300,000, all kinds of people in those tournaments. Your odds of winning are very low. Those types of tournaments also have a maximum entry limit of 150 lineups. To be honest, there are sharks out there, and there are a lot of them, and those sharks are entering 150 lineups in every single one of those contests. So when you take your $3 and just drop it in there, there's a very high chance that you're not going to win. And you're not going to double your money. You're not even going to come in the money, because you have sharks out there that, are studying, the different players, the different lineups, the potentials, and they're putting out 150 lineups in that tournament. And like I said, there's a bunch of people doing it. Your cash lineup is a safe spot. That's your, double up tournament. $5 pays $10, $2 pays $4. There's usually not a ton of people in these, although it can range. They can go up to like 10,000, 20,000 people, but you only have to beat half the crowd and you double your money. There's no higher payout. It's just doubling your money. That is a safe way to play, DFS, and there's a strategy, to, if you're going to be playing GPP, to at least cover your action with cash. So that way, if, you're getting different, you're playing crazy lineups in GPP trying to get lucky, and you're losing because of it, at least you're making your money back by supporting it with the double up tournament. Number 4, ownership. This also ties into GPP and cash. Ownership is the percent that a certain player is projected to be owned in these certain tournaments. In cash tournaments, you want to pick players that are going to be highly owned. It's your favorable players. It's your favorable matchup. It's your Tyreek Hill versus the weakest defense in the NFL, where he's going to be owned by 80 to 90% of the people drafting him. And that works. That'll get you above half the people for some reason in those cash lineups and double your money. That will not work in GPP. In order to win GPP, you've got to get different, which is our number 6. The ownership plays a very important role in getting different, and that's what we mean by getting different. It's not picking somebody that's very bad that might shine this game that's too hard to predict, but it's more along the lines of picking a solid player with an okay or not so good matchup that's very low owned. That could be a Tyreek Hill some days, or it could be Sam Laporta some days. You just don't know. You got to look at the matchup. You got to, have tools and things at your fingertips to, look at those percents, or tune into our podcast, and I always share them with you the week before of what the ownerships are looking like and where I'm looking to get different for GPP. In order to win a GPP, such as the Millie, which is number 5, first place is $1 million. There's hundreds of thousands of people in there. There's people maxing it. You got to get different. If you're going to play a 90% owned Tyreek Hill, a 90% owned Travis Kelce, an 80% owned CJ Stroud, your whole lineup's just high owned. Even if you had the highest lineup, you're going to split with 100,000 people, and you're never going to win the Millie. So what you're doing to yourself is literally shooting yourself in the foot. Not only would you split with a whole bunch of people not winning money, but that never happens. Those chalk players never end up being the Millie winner. It's always, you look at it and you're like, oh my God, how does somebody pick, right, like the Steelers quarterback against the number 1 defense and he pops off, right? you got to look more into it. It's about the ownership. The matchup may not have looked so good on paper, but then again, that quarterback might have been good against that type of defense, or he might just have a thing against that team. There's certain other little things you just got to tie in and mix up and get different, right? If your boy's telling you he's playing Derrick Henry against the worst rush defense, do the exact opposite, because that means everybody's doing that. And that's really the best information you could ever get. Just follow it and tune in every week. So when I give you those low-owned projected players with good matchups and the high-owned projected players for your cash lineup.
So that's pretty much DFS in a nutshell. So with that being said, some highlights of this is season 2 for us. Some highlights from last season. We had some guys that were $1 million. They should have been $1 million richer, but they didn't listen to the whole podcast. End up only winning about 20,000, but that's great. $20,000, $20,000, right? We all took down some first places, some tournaments last season. So we want you guys to take the ride with us, join in on us, with us. We'll be doing 2 a weeks on some on Wednesdays to get you ready for Thursday nights, and then on Saturdays get you ready for Sunday. So that's pretty much DFS, and we want to hear your questions. We want to know why we should play DFS, or why we should play season long, or whatever, or which DFS app.
In those stardom sit-ems. We love the stardom sit-ems and debating those and going back and forth for those to give you the best information we can, so you can get your lineup right, get you to win that championship.
And we will play this season a little bit with some lineups in DFS, with the DFS with an app. Maybe we primarily use DraftKings, but I mean, if you have an app that you like to use and you have a question like, hey, my DFS is Yahoo and it's half PPR versus DraftKings, which is full PPR. You're giving me advice for PPR. Who should I take in this half PPR? You know what I'm saying? So, and then you get down to FanDuel, they're also half PPR. So some of the advice that we might be giving might be more influenced towards one of these apps and one scoring type, but we have answers for all scoring types. Because if we sat here and talked about all scoring types, we'd be here all night long. But that's really what it's all about, is trying to get you guys the best information that you can get to get that W.
You got it.
So talking about, moving to the last little segment, talking about getting different. If you already play DFS and you want a new way to get different in DFS, where you pick teams instead of players, so you don't have to do all that research, or you had the New York Jets, you have Aaron Rodgers in your lineup, and he goes out in four minutes with a torn Achilles, and you don't want to have to do all that work. Try our new partner here, Fantasy Sports Evo. You pick the contest, you pick the teams, and then you just let it ride. It is, use our promo code, capital B, lowercase AND, capital B, capital FS, and tell them that Ballers and Briefs sent you. You will get a 100% match of deposit up to $100. That's $100 in free money. I'm telling you, $100 in free money just to put in contests that you will hopefully turn a profit over on. I mean, you're starting in the green, or in the black.
Green. Can't beat that.
So and they have contests right in the running contest right now of baseball, WNBA, and then when the NFL season starts, they will be running NFL games. And we will be kind of talking a little bit about these kinds of lineups when it comes to actual talking DFS and fantasy, because some of these lineups can kind of go hand in hand with these higher scoring matchups that we like to look at when it comes to actual DFS, like the actual player-based DFS. Now, Fantasy Sports Evo, they're not in direct competition with DraftKings. They're not betting. They're not prize picks. They're not those. They go hand in hand. This is just another way for you to maximize yourself and have a new line to make a profit off of. So give them a shout out. Look at them up. Look at them on X. Go to their Fantasy Sports Evo.com. You can or download the app and put in the promo code, and it's a 100% match. I mean, you guys, that's free money, right? Like, what do you guys think?
I think definitely for anyone who maybe even just kind of has a certain team, whether you're like myself, a Jaguars fan, and you kind of know that team, you may not know everything, but you know that team, and you know that team really well. This might be the best type of app that can kind of utilize that skill for you, where you're just picking the team, maybe an offense or a defensive side. Keeps it simple. You don't have to know all of the players, but you do know, hey, I know Trevor Lawrence. I feel like he might do a good job with the offense today. This is the app for that. That you can really utilize that and try to turn your money into more money. So it's definitely an app worth looking into, and trying not to keep it simple. You know, not even just to keep it different.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, if anybody's got questions, we'd love to see them. And we'll hang around just for a couple more minutes and see if you guys have questions. And if not, we will see you guys in a couple weeks, maybe getting ready for when preseason kind of starts, kicking off a Hall of Fame game on August the 1st.
Ready for some football.
Yes, I mean, it's right around the corner, guys. I mean, it's here, and I'm tired of just looking at news. I need people to move. I need people to do stuff. I need these shout out to our old buddy Gerald Rivers. The Gerald Rivers of the world need to be on the field. That's what I need, because we get to see that come August the 1st. So these guys that we're not going to know their names, we're not going to know where they came from, but that's a good spot for when it comes to your fantasy drafts, to be able to look at who you need to look at in the later rounds of the draft, and for our get different plays, like, oh, this rookie's coming in, and I'm telling you, he's going to be like a third string wide receiver, and no one's going to be on him during DFS. And then when we tell you to draft that, put that third string rookie, because he's low owned and he's got high potential in your DFS lineup, your GPP, you're going to be like, oh, I should have listened to Ballers and Briefs, because they told me to pick that guy and he went off. So that's where you do your research ahead of time in the preseason. So, but it doesn't look like we have any questions. So, guys, you got any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Nope, no final thoughts. You guys, when it's time to win money.
Almost there.
Yeah, we're almost to it, guys. So we appreciate everybody hanging out, and we will see y'all soon. Oh, before we leave, I wanted to say we are now officially in the merch game. I know if you can all see us with our DFS hats. We have koozies now, and the big one, we have tees. So this season we will be running some contests for new subscribers and subscribers into the contest. So make sure you tune in, because you could end up winning some merch. So we'd love to see it, stickers and all kinds of stuff. So we want to get the message out, and we want you to help us do it. So thanks again, and we will see y'all soon.
Thank you.